For this assignment, you are going to construct the two elevations. That's going to be the front and side elevation of your project. And you're also going to construct the section. I'm combining these two drawings because they're using the same layers. There's no major difference between the information that needs to be completed, and it's going to be helpful to keep them together. In some instances, we usually draw the elevations separate from the section. Just keep that in mind. But in order to be a little bit more effective and efficient now, I'm going to focus on keeping these together. And then we're going to use the same layers that we used for the sofa elevation drawing. Like I noted on here, you may want to create some additional layers. It'll give you more control over your content in terms of how it's going to print. You have a really good understanding of why we use layers, why we assign color to the layers, and how we use those colors to then print out with a specific line weight. Feel free to take some liberties to accomplish your goals. I'm going to begin this drawing, first initial, last name. It's going to be called XElevations, and it should say XSection. Again, anything with an X in front of it means that we are going to be externally referencing it down the road. Let me go ahead and click on New. I'm going to select the drawing template that is the AutoCAD template. So from here, one of the first things to do is to format the units. So I type units, format them to architectural, 1/32 of an inch precision. Decimal degrees is fine. And then to the nearest 100th of a degree. Click OK. And then save the drawing as. So this time I'm going to type save as and enter. Go to your folder where you're keeping your files. Give it the appropriate file name. And in this case, it's going to be called XElevations and XSection. 2 elevations and 1 section. Go ahead and save that. And now, personal preference on my part is to turn off the grid. I'm used to AutoCAD not having a grid. It distracts me a little bit, and that's why I turn it off. The next thing I'm going to do is zoom out, pan a little bit, and then per the instructions, I indicated that we're going to be drawing the elevations and the section starting from the ground up. So go ahead and draw a line. So type L, enter, and start it at 0,0, enter. Turn ortho on. Just take that line out towards the positive X axis. So with ortho on, I'm just going to arbitrarily draw a line here at 100 feet and enter, and then enter again to terminate that command. And then I'm going to zoom extents by typing Z, enter, E, enter. And then I'll zoom out. That line is 100 feet in length. And you'll see why I'm doing this in just a little bit. You do have to place layers into this drawing file. You could go to the layer properties and start to type in the names. But I want to show you something that you can do here. What I'll recommend that you do is go back and open up that sofa elevation drawing. Go ahead and click on open. The layers that I'm using here, I want to use the same layer names and the same colors in my new drawing. Going back to the drawing, I now want you to click on the View tab. From the View tab, go to the Palettes panel and click on the icon that reads Design Center. When you do that, it's going to open this palette, and this is Design Center. And from here, you'll notice because I've been in here before, I've already gone to this directory. I'm in, or not in, but I'm looking at a drawing file called Home Space Planner. And I clicked on the blocks in that drawing file, and you could see them listed here. What I want to point out is with this drawing file, when I highlight it, I can actually bring a lot more information out of that drawing into this one that I have open. I don't want to use this drawing, but I did want to point that out to you because there are some blocks in here that maybe you're interested in using. So I'll just leave it at that. But what I'd like to do is go over here to Open Drawings. I prefer to have that drawing open because it's easier. Instead of going through the folders here and trying to navigate them and look for the file specifically, it's easier to open it and then come into this Open Drawings tab. And then from here, I'll go ahead and expand my sofa elevations. When I do that, I will now go and click on Layers. And it shows me the layers that I have in this drawing file. And I'd like to bring the layers from that drawing file into this one. Just to show you how this works, first of all, let me go back to my elevation and section drawing here, go to the Home tab, and I want you to see it currently has layer 0, and that's it, nothing else. And I'm going to show you how these are going to come in. What I can do is simply click on the layer and click and drag it in to my XElevations section. I release that mouse and then I come up here. You can see that it has added the layer. That's just bringing one in. Another way I can bring it in is simply click on it one time and then right click, click on Add Layers. When I do that, it will add the layer. Another way to do it is simply to double click it. And I have double clicked that layer name. And there's the layer. I could have selected all of them at once and either clicked and dragged, right clicked and all of that, but I just wanted you to see the different options here. So this final one is my guides layer. Right click that, go ahead and click Add Layers. And now what I have done is brought the layers in from one drawing file to another. That's one way that I've been doing it for a while. It's not too well known, but it sure is a time saver. I'll close Design Center now. So the keyboard shortcut is AD, type AD and it comes up, and then just go ahead and click on Add Center. And now I have my layers in here. And if I go to my Layer Properties Manager, there they are. Now that I have the layers in there, before I start using them, the next thing I'm going to do is externally reference the floor plan because I need to use that floor plan to project lines down. I'm going to type XR and enter. And from here, I will go to the Attach DWG icon and then click on Attach DWG. And I'll go out there to my folder where I have my files, and I'm going to externally reference my X plan. I click on the name and I click Open. From here, it's important that you change the reference type to overlay. This will make sense later on. The scale, keep it at 1:1. We drew actual size and we're going to continue drawing at actual size. For the insertion point, this time I do want to specify on screen. The path type, select no path. All of your files are residing within the same folder. There's no need for AutoCAD to look outside of that folder. There is no rotation at this point. Nothing I can change with the block units, and that's fine. Once I have this all set, I will click OK. And now I'm prompted to bring in my floor plan. I know that I'd like to start drawing my elevations starting at that line, which represents the ground, and move it on up. For now, I'm going to place my elevation somewhere up here, like this. And then I can begin to project lines coming down. By the way, this is on layer 0, and your Xrefs should always come in on layer 0. So make sure that 0 was your current layer. And now I can go ahead and select my guides as my current layer. And then let me just pause here for a second and go back to Layer Properties Manager and show you something. In my layers, I see the layers that are brought in from my floor plan. The layers have the names that I gave them, but they're preceded by the drawing file name. And notice how they're grayed out. That means that I can see them, but I cannot draw on them. It also means that I can control them. I can turn the layers off right here if I wanted to. So I still have that control as well. And then over here on the filters, right now I have it selected to all, but I can also select all non-XREF layers. What it basically does is filters the XREF layers out of my list. They don't show up in this window, and they will not show up in the drop down here. So just be mindful of that. Personally, I like to keep them on, so I just leave it at all, and I can see my layers. For layers that I do not need to see, I go ahead and come up here to my layers panel, click off, and I'll turn off layers that currently are not important or needed for my drawing file. So I'll go ahead and enter. And now it's a matter of projecting lines down, but I'm going to start with my guides. Before, when I did my sofa drawing, I simply drew lines and I typed L, enter, and I started to project lines straight down like this. And I guess I can turn perpendicular on since I'm going to be drawing perpendicular, so I'll do that. I just have to be mindful of the fact that it's running for me. So I can draw the line here, enter, enter again, draw a line here, straight down, perpendicular to it, enter, and I can continue to project. That's one way to do it. Another way to do this, let me just take the two lines, select and delete. I can also draw what are called X lines. And I believe they're listed here in the draw panel, the drop down. And you would go to this line here where it says construction lines, and it draws them at infinite lengths. Command line is X line, so I'll go ahead and click on that. I'm prompted to draw the X line, and it says specify a point, or I'm going to select the option to construct a vertical line. So I'll type V and enter. And then I'd like that vertical line to go through this point, and then this point, and this one here for now, and this one here. And I'm simply looking at the lines that are going to project straight down in front of me in this elevation. And now I can go ahead and right click. That terminates the command. And if I zoom out, you'll see these lines are extending, as it stated, infinitely. But what's nice is that I can type zoom extents. So I go Z, enter, E, enter. And it ignores the fact that they're extending infinitely, and it just focuses on what I have drawn here. So that's really nice. You can use guidelines, just simple lines going straight down, or you can use the X line command. I did it for the vertical lines, but if I wanted to or needed them going horizontal, I can do that also. So let me just show that to you real quick. I'll type X line and enter. And then from the command line, the option that I have there is H for horizontal. So I type H and then I enter. And then I could put one, let's say right here. You'll notice how it's going to some midpoint, which I'm not sure what that is. I just want to zoom in and make sure I hit this endpoint, but apparently it looks like it's a midpoint, endpoint. I'll tell you what I'll do. Maybe I'll pick this point here. No, it still wants to go to that midpoint. So that's fine. I think it's picking the right location. So I'll click and then right click, and that's it. By putting that line in there, I'm basically saying, yes, whatever's projecting from this line, start to bring that down. I can begin to draw. you notice how the lines here, they're on top of my floor plan. So let me show you something else that you can do here. You can take this floor plan, which is an external reference, and the external reference, my definition for you was the image of a drawing file inside of another drawing file. So if I click on it, I'm selecting the image, and then I'm going to right click. I'm going to come down here to draw order and select bring to front. And what it will do is it will move that external reference, that image, above the guidelines that I have placed in there. This is ground right here. I have to assign a layer to that, or I have to do something to make sure that that ground comes in nice and solid. I'll address that later. For now, I know that I have steps going up here, and I know that my first floor begins 18 inches above ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset, I type O, enter, 18 inches. I type 18 and enter, and I'd like to offset this line up 18 inches. So that's how far off the ground my building is going to be. I can enter, and then I know my building doesn't extend that far, so I'll go ahead and trim. I'll type TR, enter, and I can trim this line segment, and I'll go ahead and trim this line segment and enter. So that's the extent or the length of my building. I haven't started using my different layers yet, only because I want to begin just giving myself some guidelines here and laying this out as best as I can. Okay, so now I will go back and I'll start to put in the steps, and the steps are going to be in this location. And I indicated that each step is going up 6 inches. So if I zoom in here, I can go ahead and offset. So I type O, enter, and I type 6 and enter. I could offset the bottom line up, but that's quite a long line. I'm simply going to select this one and offset down, and then offset down again, and enter. And then I'm going to trim, TR, enter, and I trim this segment and this one, and enter. That represents my stairs in elevation, and I used the stairs in plan view to generate the elevation. So I'm going up, and this is the landing right here, and this is the landing in plan view. Now what I'd like to do is place my door in there. For the door, I know that it's going to be a few inches off of the wall here. And if I wanted to, I can go ahead and maybe copy. So I'll type CO for copy. I can copy this guideline, enter, from this point over here, perhaps copy it there, and then here and there, and enter, just to project the lines down. And then I come over here to my elevation, and I can go ahead and begin to put my door in. I know that a typical residential door is 6 feet 8 inches. To continue, I'll go ahead and offset a distance of 6 feet 8 inches, enter. And I'll offset this line up and then enter. And that's going to be my door right there. But the 2 lines here on either side represent my door frame, and that door frame is 2 inches, and that's going to be 2 inches all the way around. I'm going to offset 2 inches. I'm going to take this line up like that and enter. Now I'll go ahead and take these 2 lines right here, place them on my layer that represents medium, because the lines are neither in front and they're also not too far back. Later, I might change it to a lighter setting, but for now, I'll go with medium. And then what I'll do, let's see, tap the escape key, and I'd like to start drawing on that layer, so I'll make it my current layer. And then I'll zoom out, and now I'll go ahead and draw some additional lines. Now I'm basically just tracing over the lines that I have in there. like this. I'm going to tap my space bar to terminate the command, space bar again to bring back the last command I used. Click here, take it down, space bar again, from here to there, tap the space bar, and then tap the space bar again, from here to there, and enter. That's the door. But I want to be able to clean this up. So now I'm going to turn off by clicking on this icon here. I'm going to turn off my guide layer. You know, it looks a little different without the guides, but I know what I need to do here. So I'm going to enter, and then I can either use the trim or I can use the fillet command. And what's coming to mind right now is to use trim, and watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to type TR, enter, and I'm simply going to click and drag from here all the way over here, and then release my mouse. And then a couple of quick clicks right here, and enter. And that's my door. This part of the wall is really what's in the foreground. So I should probably draw the lines that represent that right now. And those will go on this heavy layer because that's in the foreground. So I'm going to type L, enter, and from this point straight down. And this is going to be my choice now. Do I want the line to go here, or do I want it to continue all the way down? My building could, I guess I could draw it here like this and enter, because that's my building. It's coming straight down there, and there's a break there between the stairs and the rest of the building. So I can leave it there. Over here, draw another line, or in fact, not even draw a line. I can go ahead and copy this line, enter from here to there, and then enter. So that's the door. I have another wall over here, and that wall is further back than this one. I'll switch my layers and go back to medium, and I'll draw a line from here straight down perpendicular there, and enter. What I'm trying to show here is that this area here represents my front wall. And then the area over here is representing that wall that's just a little bit back. And then I have a door there. And then I have these steps. And those steps are also a little bit back. So I'm going to go ahead and take all three of the lines here and place them on this medium layer like that. And then tap the escape key. And this is how I'm going to get started. This is going to be one of the two elevations. The other elevation, I'm just going to draw it over here on this side. And here's what I'm going to do. Because this is an external reference, that means it is an image. And I can make copies of this image. So I'll go ahead and type CO, enter. I take this object, this image, and select it. Then I enter, and I'll copy it from this point over here like this. And then tap the escape key. So the next thing I'm going to do is rotate the plan. So RO, enter, select it, enter, and then click somewhere here and then rotate it up. And make sure that you're not clicking near some endpoint. It might give you a bad rotation. So make sure you're not selecting or coming near any endpoint or any object snap. So I'll go ahead and click up here. And then at this point, it's easy enough for me to go ahead and type M, enter, P for previous, enter, and then move it from here. Just take it straight up, maybe in line with that other elevation like that. And then it's just a matter of taking this line, extending it over, and then I begin projecting lines down like I did before. This time, I realized that maybe I don't need the guidelines because I can just go ahead and start drawing. And I know that this is the front of my building. And then I have the other walls a little further behind. I can go ahead and go to the layers panel, click on make current. I can select this line, make that one current. And then I can go ahead and type L, enter, and start right here and bring that straight down, enter, and then enter again, bring this line straight down and enter. And then for the other lines, because they are further back, now I want those to be medium. So I select or click on medium, make that my current layer, and then L again for line, enter. And I take this line straight down and it goes perpendicular, enter, and then enter again. And this line straight down like this and enter. And now for my stairs, yes, the stairs are in the foreground, but I want to make sure that my building is what stands out the most. So I'm going to stay on this medium layer and I'm going to construct the stairs. Let me draw a line from here straight down, enter, another line from here straight down, and I should zoom in. That way it's easier to see and not accidentally pick some other endpoint. And then L, enter from here straight down, enter. And now I've already drawn the lines over here. I can type CO, enter to copy both of the lines, enter, and I'll take it from this endpoint straight across over here, and I'll simply place it right at this point here. And then escape terminates the command. I don't want to get confused. I'll go ahead and type TR, enter, and just trim right here. Enter, and then pick these two using an implied crossing window, hit the delete key. All right, that just makes it easier for me to visualize. And I can see that this is my top, this is my landing, and maybe I should have brought that line over as well, and I didn't, and that's all right. I'll go ahead and simply draw another line right here and just carry that across, because that's really where my building, the height of it is going to be. And then from here, I can type TR, enter, trim this line here, trim this line there, and enter. That's where my floor begins. There is no floor in between here. So perhaps I can delete or trim that line. So I type TR, enter, and I'll just trim that out. So this is actually the top of my landing on the outside. So watch this. I'll type F for fillet and enter. And here's where I simply use the fillet command. It's already set to 0 radius, and I should have set it to multiple, and that's okay. I'll type F, enter, and then M for multiple, enter, and I'll fillet the lines like this. And those are the steps. I enter, and I've drawn the steps in elevation using my plan, but also taking advantage of the lines that I had drawn for my other elevation here. I'm going to pause there for just a minute because I want to show you something that is really, really nice about using external references. Let's say, I haven't put in the windows yet, but I'm going to, right? I have an idea where they need to go. Here's the nice thing that you can do. You can select that Xref, you can click on it, and then you can right click and go to Open Xref. And when you go to Open Xref right here, I can now make this layer current, my walls, my A walls layer. And let's say, for example, I'd like to put a window that is, well, let's say a couple of feet off of the edge over here. So I'm going to offset 2 feet from here to there. And now let's say I want a window 6 feet wide. So I'll take this line. I'm still in the offset command, and I offset 6 feet and enter. And then I'll go ahead and use the space bar to terminate the command. I'd like to go ahead and trim this line and then this one. And I'll go ahead and use the space bar and then pick this segment and delete it. I think I want to put a window there. Now watch this. If I go ahead and save this, I save that in my drawing file. Now I go back to my elevations and sections. In the lower right-hand corner, it indicates that an external reference was modified. I'd like to reload it. If I want to, I can compare the changes, but I don't need to. I'll simply click reload. And what I'd like you to do is just take a look right here in this area. As soon as I click reload, you see the lines are there. So what's happening is this is an XREF. It's an image. The image is getting updated every time I change my drawing file. So now that I have that in here, I can go ahead and draw my lines. So I'll type L, enter. And let's say I would like to have my window here, right? I'll take it all the way down to that level, enter. And then I can draw the line again from here down like that. And I can look at it and ask myself, is this really what I want? Because if it's not, I can go ahead and make the changes. Or let's say you want to put off putting the windows in, you just want to get the elevation started. You know that at any point you can go back, you can make changes, make some revisions, and you're all set. I'll give you another example. I can go back to my floor plan. And let's say I want to give myself an extra foot here for a landing. So I'll use the stretch command. I know it's meant to be an implied crossing window, which means I have to go from right to left. So I'll do this from right to left, crossing window, enter. Click one time. I'll tell you what, I'll click right here because I'd like to extend it by 1 foot. And I know that my landing, my tread there is 1 foot. So I'll click here and then take it down to that endpoint. Just by doing that, I'll go ahead and save it. Once I save it, go back to my drawing where it's being externally referenced. Shows me that it was modified. This time, if I want to, I can go ahead and compare the changes and reload it. And it's showing me in that general area what I changed, what was there before and what I have now. Once I see that, I can go ahead and click the check mark to exit the comparison. Done. It doesn't affect my drawing or it doesn't affect my elevation here, but it does affect my elevation over there. And now it's just a matter of stretching the lines out here too, or simply moving them and then extending the lines. I'll go ahead and stretch. So I'll type S for stretch, enter, and then use an implied crossing window like that and stretch it from this point over, and it's 1 foot. But since I'm using O-track, I can track this endpoint, bring it straight down, and there we go. And that's my change. This is how you would begin your elevations. Now, you still don't know what type of a roof you might be using, so now's a good time to think about that. Consider what kind of heights you want in your ceilings inside, and then calculate where you would like your roof to begin. Usually, just to keep things relatively simple and straightforward here for us, rule of thumb, inside your spaces, you want your ceilings to be at least 8 feet high. They can always go higher. And then just assume that you're going to have 1 foot for your structure there. So if you have a flat roof, it's going to be at least 1 foot that you need. I'm just looking to see you begin these elevations and understand that. Let me go ahead and drop in the section. I'm going to take this external reference. I already have it selected, so I'm simply going to type CO and enter. And I'm going to copy it over here and then tap the escape key. And then I'm going to draw a line from this endpoint here over like that. And it's on the wrong layer. I get that. I can always fix that later. My whole point here is just to get started, to draw the long section here through this building, what I want you to consider is the following. Where would you like to make your section cut? What I typically do is I'll draw myself a line somewhere out here like this, a straight line, enter. And then I like to take that line and move it. So I type M, enter, select the line, enter. And then I move it up and I say to myself, where do I want to cut through my building? Do I want it to cut through here, which will include a window over there on the right-hand side? It's cutting through the outside over on the left, but it's cutting through the middle of my building right there in between. That's fine. Maybe I'd like to cut a section through here, which goes through the doorway. Maybe I want to cut a section through my building as it cuts through the bedrooms. I'm going to let you pick it. You decide what you'd like to do. Let's say, for example, I want to cut mine right through here. So I'll put it right there. And in this case, I follow the same concepts that I have been following for my elevations. And what I'm going to do this time, though, is draw lines that represent the thickness of my walls. If I'm cutting through my walls, I definitely want that to be my heavy lines. So I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to take it from that intersection. And that's why it's helpful to put the line in there that you're cutting through, because it finds the intersection. And then I take it down here and enter. And then for me, I just find it easier to copy. I type CO, enter. Here's a little trick. If you type L and then enter, it picks the last object that you just drew, which is the line. And then enter, and I copy it from the endpoint to the endpoint here, in this case, perpendicular. Am I cutting through anything else? Yes, I'm cutting through a window like this, and then enter. Zoom it out. And those are the two walls that I'm cutting through. And then I'm back over here. I'm not cutting through that wall, but it is in the background. I'm not going to see the stairs because the portion of my section is from this line up that I'm going to see. So then I would start drawing lines to represent that information. That one would go on this medium layer. Because of what I'm doing here, this area is going to match the elevation. So why don't I go ahead and simply just copy this information? Type CO to copy and enter. Select my objects here, select that line, enter. And I will copy it from this endpoint over to this endpoint because it's the same information. And then tap the escape key. And it looks like I missed a line, right? Because this one is longer. And that's okay. I'll simply draw another line, or I'll just come over here and go ahead and offset 6 inches because I know that's the riser, and enter. So that's the beginning. My floor, it's going to begin right here. So I'm going to draw a line, but before I do that, I know that I'm cutting through the floor. I want to make that heavy. So I type L now and enter, and I'll draw it from here across. That's my floor going all the way over here like this, and then enter. I'm going to leave it at that. My floor thickness, typically 12 inches, but for now, this is fine. And I'm actually going to do a fillet from here to there. And then over here, the same thing. Fillet here to there. And then I'm inside of my space. And now, if I decide I want an 8-foot ceiling, I'm going to type O for offset. It's going to be 8 feet from here to there. If I'm going with a flat roof, or, I want to show my structure some nominal thickness, I would make that 12 inches. So I'm going to pick this line and take it up 12 inches and enter. And this is how I begin to draw the section. And I begin to, and let me tap the escape key. I begin to understand my drawing a little better. This is how we'll get started. All I want to do is see this in progress. I want to see that you're externally referencing the floor plan to use it here to begin the 2 elevations and also begin the section. Most important thing right now is to begin understanding these concepts and apply them to the elevation drawings and to the sections.